Okay, taking a look at page 5 of our notes. Percentile. And you can find this on page 20 of your textbook. Percentile. The pth percentile, p being a variable here, of a distribution is the value such that p% of the observations fall at or below. So in this graph right here, what I did is I labeled how high each bar goes. So frequency is just how many of the trees were between these heights. So between 60 and up to 64 were 3 trees. From 65 up to 69 were 3. From 70 up to 74 there were 8. From 75 to 79, 10. And then 5 and 2 for these last two categories. So this is a histogram. So I count how many are in each bar, how many each bar represents. So there's a total of 3, 6, 14, 24, 29, 31 trees. So you count up from using the bar totals how many total trees there were. Now let's say they said, what is the 80th percentile? Well, you take 0.8, which is 80% written as a decimal, and multiply it by how many trees there are. And that's 24.8. So 24.8, and then we want to find this number, and that's going to come from accumulating these numbers as we go. So up to here there's 6, then 14, and then 24, and 24.8. The 24.8th tree from smallest up to largest would be in here. So in between 80 and 85 feet would be the 80th percentile. Okay, let's do another example just to make sure that we get that. If we wanted to find out what the 25th percentile of this data set was, we would take the decimal version of 25%, which is 0.25, and multiply it to our number of trees. And it would be the 7.75 tree. You know, that falls in between whole numbers. So we want to find where 7.75 would be in here from left to right. So 3, 6, and 7.75 would be in this block right here, in this bar of the graph. So 7.75 would fall between the range of 70 to 75 feet. So the 25th percentile of this data set would be in the 70 to 75 foot tall range. This next one is pronounced ogive. This is an ogive graph. It goes from 0 up to 100%. So from 0 to 1 in the decimal versions. So when we look at these numbers, we've got 0.00, 0.12 on the graph, 0.32, that's actually 0.58, 0.74, 0.84, 0.96, and 1.00. This is 100% of the items. This mark is 74%, 32%, 12%, and so on. So, class boundaries and cumulative relative frequency, which means it's kind of like these, how we add these together. So this is 3, 6, 14. So 14 is the cumulative mark, and they're just giving us the cumulative marks all the way across. So 100% are at 91 and below. 74% are at 55 and below. So let's locate the 10th percent. Okay, so the 10th percent, we have to estimate where 10% is over here on this axis. Drag that straight across, and it looks like 10% is, if you go over here, just below this 0.12. So I mean, it's really close to 19. You could even say maybe 18. So 18 minutes. These are in minutes, these internet usages. What percentile is the 67 minute? So you go to 67, go straight up, and it actually hits that point at 0.84. So that's the 84th percentile. Now, if they just say find the center, well, the center is going to be at 50%. So estimate where 50% is, drag that over, and then go straight down, and we have to estimate that. So the center is at about, well, let's call that maybe 41 minutes. So you can answer all sorts of questions about percentiles, either from histograms or from ogives. Remember, ogives gives us the cumulative, and we have to add these up to make them the cumulative for the histogram because those bars are separate. So a little bit more about ogive. Ogive is relative cumulative frequency graph. So this is the data from the previous page about dynamite football players' weights. So in this range there was 1, and then there's 2, 2, 3, and 1 in those ranges. What I did is I did a relative frequency of each one. So the relative frequency is 1 out of 9 of them were in that group. So 1/9 is about 11.1 repeating percent. 2 of the 9